close to his head, I would understand. I would
Yeah,
completely understand if he, with Fabianski coming out with his fist, he's not putting himself in immediate danger. Therefore, Wilson had every right to go for that ball. And if you're a striker with that natural instinct to put the ball in the net, would always go for that ball regardless.
of course. Yeah,
So he had every right to go for that. And the fact that the ref didn't even flinch and even look at it with regards to VAR said everything. Nothing wrong with that goal whatsoever. I don't know what
yeah.
Graham Souness was on about. He was talking rubbish, in my opinion.
He was, but he's just never been he's always been a devil's advocate for Newcastle United, hasn't he?
Yeah, but it's because he
Yeah,
failed. He failed. He failed. He failed. He failed with us. And he promised us success, and he promised us a winning team. But actually, what he did was break up a winning team. A potential winning team. Certainly, when he took over, he ruined the likes of Bellamy, Genius, and various other players at the club. And Newcastle fans never forgive him for that. And there's a reason why he never went into management after he left us. And I think he's always had some resentment, for with Newcastle and our fans for that reason. So I don't really listen to what he says.
yeah, of course. But you look at the game as a whole. It was. I was surprised myself. I always thought it'd be more of the same. Um, three at the back with the two wing backs, and then the four people taking charge. I was
Yeah,
very surprised by the four at the back. Um, you, you would never have visited it, really, would you?
no, it was a like I said, it was the one thing that struck me really when the lineup come out. It was a formation that we haven't used before, not under Rafa Benitez, not under McLaren. It was an unusual formation purely because it had four at the back and it had two strikers. It would be really interesting to know the last time we played with two out and out strikers, not a number
Yeah,
10, not a number
yeah,
10 or a winger playing up there in a sort of advanced role, but genuinely two strikers up front playing off each other, and it was really good to see. And I actually think, from a serious note, I actually think that West Ham were a little bit shocked by it, and I think it took them quite a while to figure out how to play against us, and it played into our hands, and I think we played really well. Um, I think it played the four at the back. It gave Jamal Lewis the license to get up and down the wing, which is exactly what he did. It gave Manquillo the license to get up and down the wing, which is exactly what he did. They're the strength of those two wing backs. They like to get forward. They like to make those overlapping runs, and it played into their strengths 100%. It also allowed the the sort of wingers. So St. Maximin, and I know he kind of played as an inside winger, really, Hendrick. It
yeah,
allowed them to kind of come inside and protect the midfield. So whenever West Ham had the ball, if you look back at the game, and I look back at the extended highlights on Sky and watched it through again, and whenever West Ham had the ball, we literally played with the three centre midfielders to try and block them out, to stop them from playing in the middle, to stop the
yeah.
likes of Declan Rice and Mark Noble having time on the ball, and it really worked. Um, it was just a really really good formation. It played into Wilson's hands. He was able to play off the channels. Carroll was able to be a target man and cause havoc in there, and they just couldn't handle us. They really couldn't.
Well, we talk about Jeff Hendrick. Uh, he was not high on many people's shopping list, really.
No.
I think he put it in a solid performance for us the other day.
But some will argue a man of the match performance, a goal and an assist,
Yeah,
would put him right up there. I know I personally said Callum Wilson just because to have that striker's performance. I've not seen a performance like that from a striker in our shirt
yeah,
for a long while, and I'm including Rondon in that as well. I thought Callum Wilson was fantastic on Saturday, but Hendrick, you know what? Like you said, we have a thing with as Newcastle fans that
yeah.
we never get excited about a player unless they're
No,
coming for millions and millions and millions, and it's always been the case. And we look at Hendrick and we think he's not He's not a high-profile name standing out there, so we think, oh yeah, he's nothing. But actually, in that formation and that setup,
damn before they kick the ball.
Yeah, and that's it. But you look at him in that formation and that setup, he looked good. He was fantastic. I'll be honest, he didn't stand out in the first half, but he did a dogged job to keep things ticking over and to stop West Ham playing. But other than that, in the second half, he really turned it on, and we saw what his attacking ability was about, and the fact that he was getting forward and looking like he could be dangerous the other end of the pitch, not just the graft in the defensive side. He's got another side to his game, and that was really, really good to see. And you know what? Yeah, he was brilliant and topped off with a fantastic goal.
But you get onto the fact with Wilson as well. You've got Wilson or Joelinton. You know, Joelinton's a guy that doesn't get himself into the right channels, does he? But Wilson was there. Wilson he's a proper striker, English striker who gets himself into the positions that you need.
He does, and I mean, he's the type of striker that we want. He's got pace. He's intelligent. Yeah, and we need that, and he knows where to put the ball in the net. You know, for Joelinton, he's a big, strong lad. He is, you know, he's not the slowest, but he lacks the intelligence to play as a number 9 down the middle. And that's the shame, you know, that he's cost so much, but really offers so little in that position. The one thing I noticed after about 10 minutes, Callum Wilson, the intelligent runs he was making into the channels and putting defenders all over the place. Their centre backs, the first 20 minutes, didn't know where to go, what their positioning was. They didn't know whether to stay still or to track him into the channels. They didn't know what to do. He's pulling them all over the place, which was leaving gaps for St. Maximin, for Carroll, for other players coming through midfield. He's just an intelligent striker who's hungry. He wants goals. He wants to take Newcastle as high as possible, and he wants to get back in the England team. So, providing he stays fit and we look after him, he will get goals for us this season. He'll be in double figures. I'm as long as he stays fit, I'm positive, can even close to guarantee it, that if he stays fit, he will score goals for us. He'll get his double figures without a doubt.
But you look at, you know, we've had. The past it's a Benitez masterclass. Was that a Bruce masterclass?
Well, that's probably the one thing. If you look at it, actually, for all the good performances and the results and the individual performances and the collective performances of the team and the players, the one thing we haven't talked about is Steve Bruce, actually. And you know what? Whether you like him or you hate him, I'm not a fan of Bruce. I've been honest with that before.
I went on Twitter the other day, and I'm proud. I think Bruce has done a fantastic job because he was parachuted in at the last possible moment, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then given players who we all know was already signed. So he had to put that together and try to build the team off the back of it.
And this is, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely spot on. And this is the first time this summer where he's actually been able to go out there and say, right, this is who I want. These are the players that I believe will make our team better. And, you know, he's actually been given them. And you know, look, we're one game in, it's early days, but, you know, it's positive to see us playing this well. And, you know, we've potentially got levels to build on this, providing everyone stays fit. But as I was saying, you know, Bruce hasn't been talked about much regarding this, and whether you like him or you hate him, you know, you've got to give him a bit of credit because he made the bold decision to go with 2 strikers. He made the bold decision to change the formation around, and hey, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on Steve's show, I've been on Aloid's show.
Yeah,
and every time I've said something, I've been ridiculed for it. But at the same time, you know, everyone's got their own opinions, and I think it was never anyone's first pick, was he, as manager, Steve Bruce? But he was parachuted in at the last possible moment, and he didn't have time to work anything. And what he saw was a team that this worked before. Let's build on from the bottom.
Well, and this is his opportunity to do that. Like you said, last summer he had 2 weeks before the season started to work with the players. He hadn't. He'd only just got. Well, he hadn't even got Joe Linton or Alan Saint-Maximin through the door at that point. So he had nothing to work with. Even though we've had a shorter preseason this season, he's had a longer period this preseason than he did last year. To work with his players, which is crazy to think. But look. The thing about it is that, Bruce had a difficult situation to come into. He came into it, he kept us in the league. Fantastic. However, he's been given the tools this summer. He's been given the players and the money, and he's been backed. And like you said, he now needs to start from the ground up. If he wants to remain in charge of Newcastle, he needs to make sure that he's now showing or showcasing his abilities, both as a manager and tactically, that he can take Newcastle on. He kept talking about how he wants us to progress and be better than the season previous. Well, we finished 13th, 14th last season, exactly the same as what we did in our last season under Rafa. What he needs to do now he's had the tools, is take us up. We need to be finishing higher. If he can get his top 10, if he can get us higher than that, whatever. But he needs to be making progress on what we've already done last season.
Yeah. Just looking at a comment there from my daughter. How do you feel about the Premier League? Being 13th, well, at least I think that's what she said. So to put it in a 13th, is that what we're looking at? Or do you think we could finish higher?
In all honesty, who knows? I mean, for me, I think with this current squad, there's a chance we could finish anywhere between 10th and 13th, in my opinion, right now. They've got an opportunity to blow me away and prove me wrong. But I just think consistency is one of our biggest problems. And it's something that we need to develop a winning mentality. We lost some games last year that we should have won against teams we should have won. Equally, we beat some teams that we would normally lose to. We need to have some general consistency alongside our performances. I mean, for me, last year, the likes of Norwich, we took 1 point off. The likes of who else was it? Watford. I think we took 1 point off. I think overall, there were other teams that were down there that we hardly took any points off. If we want to stay up, the likes of Leeds, the likes of West Brom, we need to be taking 3-4 points maximum. Minimum. 3 points minimum. We should be lucky. We should be targeting 6 points against those teams. I know everyone's giving Leeds the big and whatever, but look, the majority of that squad is exactly the same as what came up, and they had a lot of poor runs in the Championship. But in the Championship, you can get away with it. You can't get away with it in the Premier League. So the teams like West Brom, the teams like Leeds, the teams like Palace, we need to be doing better with. The teams like West Ham, and obviously we've won that already, which is fantastic. Some of those teams down there, we need to be taking points off, and if we do that, we'll finish a lot higher up the table.
Yeah. So, before we go on to the big T word,
yes,
let's start on league placings. So, who would you be your top 4, and who is your feelings about relegation?
I think the top 2 picks themselves, really. It'll either be Liverpool, Man City, or Man City, Liverpool. And I actually think this season that Man City will win the league. I think there's a squad, they're well equipped, and they wouldn't have liked seeing Liverpool win that league this year, particularly with how comfortable they won it. So they're going to be all guns blazing when they come back in this season. So I think Man City and I think Liverpool will finish second. I think it could well be the same top four that finished last season. I think Man U will finish third, and I think Chelsea will finish fourth. I think that'll be a top four. I think Arsenal and Tottenham may push the Man U and Chelsea a little bit closer. I think they'll be up there. I think the likes of Sheffield United will drop down. I think Leicester won't have as great a season. So I think the same top four as before. With regards to relegation, I think you've got a big chance of the three teams that came up potentially going back down again. So West Brom, I think will finish bottom. I think that'll be closely followed by Fulham, and I think potentially Leeds or Aston Villa will be those teams that will drop as well. I think let's face it, if it wasn't for VAR, Villa would be in the Championship right now.
Yeah,
that's the reality. They were extremely lucky to stay in the league, and I think luck will probably run out at some point, whether it's this season or next season. I think they'll take the drop. I even think with Jack Grealish in the team, I don't think he'll have the type of season this season that he had last season. The novelty was there of being in the Premier League. When you've had a season in that league and you're the main man, teams will actively go to try and stop you playing. And it was very clear last season that if you stopped Jack Grealish playing, Villa fall apart. It's that simple. With Leeds, they've spent money on players. They've got Rodrigo, who's a fantastic player from Valencia. Spent 30 million on him, but as a striker, but he doesn't score goals. If you look at his record,
the things with Leeds, you look, they already had a nucleus of a good team when they come up. So they're very hard working, and they showed with the 4-3. With a dodgy penalty, maybe.
Yeah, a couple of dodgy penalties, really.
Yeah,
if I'm honest with you, but I mean, look, Norwich did this.
It can be a difficult team.
They can be a difficult team, but the way people were talking about Leeds after Saturday, they say they did exactly the same with Norwich when Norwich went to them at Anfield, because it was a free pass. As the newly promoted teams, you had the opportunity to go out and just express yourself because you're not expected to win, and they did that. And you know what? They scored 3 goals. Fair play to them.
What was the score in that? It was 3-2, wasn't it?
4-3. No, it was. Oh no! Sorry, Norwich.
Last season.
Liverpool Norwich. I think it was 3-2 in the end. That again, a high scoring game.
Well, Liverpool didn't look champions then, did they? In that first game. At all. So is that what we can expect from Liverpool? A slow start and dominate from there.
Possibly, but I think they'll concede more goals this year than previous. Just Van Dijk, Alisson have had fantastic seasons, but can they maintain it? I'm not so sure. I saw during the end of restart that Van Dijk, regardless of whether they already won the league or not, Van Dijk dropped his levels massively, and Liverpool conceded a lot more goals. They went on Saturday and did exactly the same. I'm not convinced that some of those players in that team that won them the league will maintain their level. It's hard enough winning the league. It's even harder to maintain it. And this is the thing. You've seen teams, Man City, fantastic Man City teams, fantastic Man United teams, fantastic Chelsea teams over the years that have gone on and won the league and dominated. But then you've seen them the next season when they've tried to maintain it and they just can't, because levels naturally drop off. And that's where I believe Man City will be properly up for it, and they'll really go to town with Liverpool this year.
You look at the Man U years. How many trophies, how many Premier Leagues did they win? But then at the same time, there's no one ever really that challenged that title, was there really? But now it's giving more, and I think it's more marketable now, the Premier League, because there's more fun and more games in it.
Yeah.
But if we'd had our takeover, then that would have added more to the, you say the top 6. We could have become the top 7. Is that not more marketable to the Premier League to say, oh, bigger teams?
And this is what you'll find. Whether if the takeover doesn't manage to go through, this is what you'll find is that's where they'll market it, because they did it with Chelsea when Abramovich took over.
Yeah.
The novelty about them winning the league for the first time and retaining it, and them being the new powerhouse. It was then the same with Man City when Sheikh Mansour took over in 2009. It was a case of when they win the league, they won the league and they did a big, massive party about it, and they're all singing, dancing Man City, and it was the new team on the block. They did it again this year with Liverpool. First Premier League title. They went to town more than any other team. The fireworks, the lot. They did the whole shebang to really celebrate Liverpool winning the league, because they've never won it before. They were the new big powerhouse.
Yeah,
if Newcastle get taken over, there you go. Try
being a Newcastle fan.
Exactly. And this is it. And if the takeover goes through, that's what will then happen. We will then become Sky's baby. You'll find that we're on TV all the time. You'll find that they'll start getting guests in that actually support the club and care about the club, and not your Kieran Dyers or your Graham Souness's that don't really like Newcastle and don't talk about us positively. You'll get guys that will really positively talk about the club, and they'll start to be a loving until potentially we win the league, and they'll back us because we'll then potentially be the new powerhouse. And obviously, this is all hypothetical. This is if the takeover goes through, and it's anyone's guess at the moment whether that is even likely to happen or not.
Yeah, but on reports, I mean, they said that on certain journalists, I couldn't tell you who, but they said the likes of Liverpool, Man U, West Ham weren't too happy about it. Of course they're not. Because that puts pressure on the likes of Liverpool, Tottenham, but then West Ham are struggling at the minute, so. That puts it all in perspective. That's why they were worried.
Well, this is it. You've got teams like West Ham, Everton that are trying to get up there, that are spending shed loads of money to try and get up there, and are not getting anywhere. And let's be honest, they're not getting anywhere. But with the type of financial backing that PIF have, they know that we could blow even the biggest teams in the Premier League out the water with potential signings and development. And what that does, I'm not surprised the likes of Spurs and Arsenal and teams like that are worried and don't want the takeover to go through, because they're already trying to fight to get back in the top 4. Now, they don't want to fight with an extra team to get back in the top 4. And that puts them potentially down the pecking order one more again. The likes of Leicester City, who are actually the ones knocking on the door at the moment, wouldn't want this to be taken over, because, again, what it does, it puts them potentially down the peg and stops them from progressing to the top 4. At this point in time, the likes of Man City and Liverpool wouldn't necessarily be bothered or worried, but eventually they would be. They would be worried, because at some point, with that type of financial backing, whether it was 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, we would eventually be challenging at that level. Because if you've got that serious type of financial backing that even blows Sheikh Mansour out the water, you can bet that eventually we would be up there. It would take time, but we would get there eventually. And they know that, and that's why they don't want it to happen. At the moment, the likes of West Ham and the likes of one or two other teams are quite happy for us to just be languishing in the bottom half of the table, because we're an extra team down there that they feel that could finish below them in the table, and it gives them a heightened chance of starving off relegation. Let's be honest, that's what it is.
The whole league was worried.
Yeah, of course, and they will be if it eventually goes through. Now, I didn't know if you wanted to talk takeover, and I know there's been some developments today.
Yes.
So
I was leaving it to the end.
yeah, no, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You could. To be fair, we could have done half an hour on the takeover alone.
I
if I'm
went
honest
on
with you.
Twitter to say I think the takeover word should be put in the English dictionary as a dirty word because we all hate it.
Yeah. That word. I think every Newcastle fan hates it.
So we'll jump straight in. So you look at Mike Ashley's obviously party's tanks, as Mitch says on Twitter, the Geordie dentist.
Yeah.
And we all expected that. What would be your take, and how would you think it would eventually plan out?
Well, it was a nice surprise to see it all sort of kick off on Twitter today. I was working, so I don't get much signal where I work, and then all of a sudden checked at my phone and it just lit up like a Christmas tree with messages galore of what was happening on regarding the takeover. So look, the first question I asked myself was is it one of two things? Is it Mike Ashley looking to get? Well, yeah, spitting his dummy out, looking for some sort of compensation for the fact that this takeover didn't go through. That was number one. Or is it number two? Is he looking to point the finger at the Premier League for not allowing this takeover to go through when there's nothing wrong with it? And is he wanting to go court to get this decision made for him, be above the Premier League? So basically overturning any sort of decision and allowing the takeover to proceed. If it's number one, it doesn't affect the takeover, and we are still without a new owner, and we're back to square one, and Mike Ashley is just looking for a bit of money.
Yeah.
If it's number two, then this is where it gets interesting, because there's already been lots of talk for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks now. You're talking back in June that there's no real reason for this takeover based on the current owners and directors test to not go through. There is no reason, which is why they haven't made a decision on it. They've not ruled on it because they know they can't fail it, and so they stall and make it difficult to the point where PIF walk away, which they have done at this point in time. So, that was my first question: is was it one or was it two? Now, based on what a lot of people are saying, it seems like it's number two, and it seems like that they're actually he's actually looking to get these lawyers in place to ensure that that the Premier League are held accountable for not following their own rules, their own owners and directors test, and to get and this is it. And so this fills me with with interest, and it doesn't fill me with confidence. It fills me with interest because this effectively is now where it gets interesting, because as you've just said, they haven't followed their own rules. From a lot of what they've said in their statements has been based on their own assumption and not off facts. It's just their belief, and their belief is going to count for nothing in court. Let's be honest. So in my opinion, the Premier League are going to have to pull out an absolute blinder and have some absolute ultimate facts to slap down in that court case in order to win it. Because the second thing that I looked at is who's representing Mike Ashley, and the people that are representing Mike Ashley were the same people that apparently that represented Man City to get their Champions League ban overturned. And they are extremely successful sports lawyers who only take the big cases, but and have got an unreal success rate.
Yeah,
and you've got to think if they're willing to.
What was it? The Man City. They've been behind Man City, Derby, many others, and they've always won, which is a good light, really.
Exactly, and you've got to think to yourself, this takeover has been in the public domain for a long time now. They would have, of course, as lawyers, they would naturally follow this this takeover with interest, as sports lawyers even more so. Now you've got to think to yourself, if Mike Ashley's employing them, and if they're willing to accept that case, you've got to believe that as very successful lawyers and as a very successful law firm, that they must have extreme confidence that they can win this case.
Yeah.
And if it is that number two, in my feelings, that
I mean, being the big QCs as they are in world football, they wouldn't take the case if they were going to lose.
Exactly, and that fills me with a lot of interest. So
yeah,
I mean, look, this is not something that's going to be sorted out in a couple of weeks. This will take months to sort out. It might even take till the season end. It's not going to be something that's going to be done quickly. But you know, if it's going to be done and they're looking to get the decision on the takeover changed, or certainly to the point where the PIF are allowed to take charge or take ownership of Newcastle, then yeah, this could be our way in. But let's face it, there's a lot of journalists that have said for quite a while now that it's likely, even before the takeover fell apart, that they were always saying that they're likely to go to court in order to resolve this.
Yeah, it's become a, sorry to swear, but it's been a shit show since day one, because it's got to a point where it has been in the public eye all the way through, and that has been a massive problem. If nothing had been said, nothing had been seen, it was it that put it out on. It was the Wall Street Journal at the start, wasn't it?
That's right. They did. So they're the ones that brought it to light, because if it wasn't for them, everything else would have been done in the background. It would have never come into the public domain. The likelihood is, well, potentially yes, because I think you know, if it had not come to light through the Wall Street Journal, people would have never started monitoring the company's house, and it wouldn't have got the scrutiny and the media attention from, you know, whether it was LGBTQ, whether it was Amnesty, whether it was whoever it was with regards to human rights. It wouldn't have got all that media attention, and therefore would have likely gone through a lot smoother, and probably would have taken the 4 weeks that it was originally meant to have been, or certainly notified as being. But look, we are here where we're here now.
We are where we are,
and that's it.
Yeah, we are where we are. How long you got? Or
a couple of more. Yeah, we've got a couple of more minutes if there's anything. Anything else on the chat?
It was another one from my daughter. You know, I think we've already gone through all this. Where would you see us being? Say this legal. Is all this a good thing, do you think, or could it leave us exactly where we are?
Good question. I think it you know, when this goes into port, you know, Mike Ashley is going to be very clear on what he wants as an outcome, and I think based on that will give us an idea of where it's going to go. Like I say, if he goes into court and says, I want compensation and I want money for this, this, and this, and has no mention of a takeover going through, then we are right back to square one. However, I think from what people have been saying today, I think it's very clear that Mike Ashley wants number two. He wants gone. He will support the club, and he already has backers with finances and all the rest of it, because he has to keep his investment as clean and as positive as possible. But ultimately, he wants gone. He wants gone, and the best way to get gone is PIF, because PIF at the moment in the world, in terms of businesses around the world, is the only company that is willing to pay him what he wants for the club.
There's a question for you. There's a question for you. The signings, there was a lot of hoo-ha on Twitter, on the news, that some of these signings that Mike Ashley said, we'll give him the thumbs up, was on the PIF list.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that,
Yeah, it was.
and the likes of Callum Wilson and
Wilson.
Jamal Lewis and um, Fraser, Ryan Fraser were all on that list, as well as
Yeah,
a couple of even more expensive players. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, very interesting because like it's been said, a 28-year-old Callum Wilson at 100 plus grand a week to break that wage structure is not a Mike Ashley thing to do, particularly in this climate of COVID. So the fact that he's done that did raise a few eyebrows. So it would not surprise me at all that that it was a a sort of PIF sort of transfer wish list. And if that's the case, that that gives us some positivity. But look, I'm just happy that those guys are in the door
I
and
mean,
playing with our shirt. So yeah, you can say fair play for getting that done. But actually, I'm not going to say fair play to him just yet because there's another something that I want him to do, and that's win that court case when it comes about,
of
and
course.
hopefully get that takeover overturned, and that's when I'll say fair play.
Let's hope that's kept under wraps as well.
Definitely. But the thing about
Right.
it is because
A question to you from my daughter again. Bring it up. Can you see that? Yeah.
yeah. In terms of his actions, uh, I
Over
think
the
he,
past
I think he,
13 years.
well, over the last 13 years, his actions have been a disgrace, and he has been a disgrace for all of his Newcastle fans. Across the country, across Europe, across the world, he's been a disgrace, and he's put us in this position that we are now. However, his actions that he's made today have been a very good move, and the right move, and it can, like I say, it can fill us with interest and positivity that something's going to get done.
Yeah. Next question.
Okay. I definitely 100% he should have been number 9.
Yeah.
Joe Linton is not a number 9. He should be given a number that takes the responsibility off him. However, look, Callum Wilson, he has a sentimental reason why he wears number 13. I'm not sure what that is, but he has number 13 for a reason. If he's
If he
there to
bangs the
bang,
ball, I don't care.
ultimately, yeah, that is it. Plain and simple. If he scores the goals, it doesn't really matter. But I do believe if he scores the goals this season, which I think he will, I think next season he'll have the number 9.
Yeah, that's exactly my sentiments. What did my wife say? We know Ashley wants out, and his business mind has kicked in because he knows that he must improve the team in order to sell. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I'd agree. He needs to keep his business. He needs to keep his business positive. He needs to
Yeah,
keep his business, sailing through. There's no point in him not investing in the team and just languishing at the bottom of the table, which would have been without the signings that we made. Would have been languishing at the bottom in this season. There's no point in that happening, and then him forcing through a takeover and is being relegated in the same season. It makes absolutely no sense. So he needs to ensure that whilst he's doing this legal battle, so it all seems to be making a bit of sense now. For last week, he's making all these signings, and then this week he's going for a legal battle. So it's almost like he's trying to keep his current business in order to ensure that his future business in the courtroom
of course.
makes sure that he ultimately gets his 300 million to go and do his other investments elsewhere. So it all seems to be coming together now and making sense on why he's moved the way he moved. So it was basically 1 week making signings, put his statement out about the Premier League. The next week he's going into a legal battle with the Premier League. So he's just getting his house in order before he goes to war. Basically, that's what he's doing.
I've got a question here from Jacob Ford. Opinions on St. Maximin, quality player? Well, we all know he is.
Fantastic player. He's a joy to watch. And I enjoy watching him play every time he puts on a Newcastle shirt. He's a tremendous talent that if we look after and nurture in the right way, You know, I believe that at some point he'll be playing for France. I've got no
Yeah,
doubt about it.
yeah,
He is that good. Um, I want to see more goals and assists from him this season. First and
mhm,
foremost, I want him playing more games, so we need to manage him from a fitness point of view. But I want to see more
yeah,
goals and assists from him this season. I want him to
yeah.
be a little bit more ruthless in front of goal. There's a few shots that he has that he just snatches at. He had one on one Saturday where he got it on
The
the edge of
double
the
red
area.
card, he just doesn't get, just doesn't. He's one track mind. He's like a Ginola.
Yeah,
Of course, if he's on goal, he's going to take a shot, isn't he?
yeah.
That,
But
that's his third thing.
you just want him to be hitting it with a little bit more conviction.
Yeah,
Because, like I say, I believe that he can score a few more goals this year. And he's got that trickery to really cause some problems. He's going to get games like he did on Saturday, where he's going to get teams that are just going to want to kick him. But if he can manage that and show the mentality
yeah,
to get through that and still play the football, I think he'll be absolutely fine.
yeah. Of course. Is this one Cipher? Hatterman and Arthur. Was it? That would have been classy. We're still at Newcastle with St. Maximin. The French link up would have been great. Could you put Kabay in all that as well?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, like, St. Maximin on one wing and Hattenbed off on the other is a dream attacking forward line with
Yeah,
trickery, pace, and
yeah,
creativity. It had been fantastic to watch. But yeah, Kabay playing the balls in the middle would have been fantastic as well. It would have set up for a very attacking, creative, striking lineup for sure.
and God bless him, Teotia. May him rest
Yeah,
in peace.
definitely.
But breaking up play at the back, I think that team would have been awesome.
I
Well
agree.
done, Cypher, there on that one.
100%. Great question.
It is that one. My Jacob Ford, Jeff Hendrick, is he a good signing? I think we've all said yes.
Yeah. He,
He's shown his hand and being a true professional in what he does.
I think most people thought when he signed that he was going to be a good squad player.
Yeah,
But actually, from what he's showing on Saturday, is that he could be more than just a good squad player. He can actually do and play a huge part in the first team, the first 11. So, you know, a lot of people forget that he went to Burnley from Derby for
yeah,
£10 million. He didn't go cheap. He wasn't a cheap deal. He went for
no,
quite a lot of money, and you know, at 28 still, we're arguably getting him for the best 4 years of his career, his
yeah.
prime. So, you know, there's an argument that he can only get better, and if he can do that at Newcastle, then
Yeah.
fantastic.
I think he's been an awesome signing, especially for free. You've got the fact that he's a forward-thinking player as well,
Mm.
and you don't get many of them for free.
No, that's true. Definitely, we
And
get some little
also,
gems now and again.
yeah,
Um,
but also you can jump on the fact, he moved from Derby to Burnley.
yeah,
I've seen many things said on Twitter. He was never played in his preferred position at Burnley, which
yeah,
could be a massive turn in form, isn't it? Really, if you're not comfortable playing in that position, then why play them? I mean, you look back at Alan Pardew.
yeah.
He played many people out of position, but then he kind of seemed to make it work.
Well, that's it. I mean, he was very much a counter-attacking manager. Alan Pardew, like to sit in deep and then counter and pick teams off that way. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it failed miserably. But you know, actually, you know, he's at the moment. Steve Bruce has got some players that could be really, really have a real positive effect on the team, and really take the team forward. Look, just let's face it. Just having a striker that knows how to score goals just changes the dynamic. It does. It
Love it.
literally changes the
Love it.
dynamics of the team. It really does. You know, you can never underestimate the importance of having a goal scorer, and just having someone like Wilson in the team just
Make massive
creates
difference.
it does. It just creates a complete different dynamic to the team. It makes us, look dangerous going forward, and it takes the pressure off the defense. Because for long periods, our defense of, for a team that was down there and conceded a lot of goals last season, we had a lot of clean sheets as well. Dubravka was up there with some of the top keepers in the league for clean sheets, considering we conceded a lot of goals. So it tells you that for long parts of the season, our defense wasn't that bad. It was just that we were under so much pressure constantly because we couldn't attack and we couldn't score. Eventually, teams broke us down.
Yeah.
And that was the downside.
Yeah. Question from Cypher. What would be your dream signing? That would be a perfect link for Newcastle. Now, we're still working on, we don't know what we're working on, so we'll work off both. If the take would have gone through, what would be your perfect signing? And still with Ashley, what would be your perfect signing?
Oh,
Good
I'll
question.
come back to the takeover one. I'll come back to that. But a Mike Ashley signing, for me, initially the one player that I wanted in a Mike Ashley window was Callum Wilson, and we got him. So I was really pleased that happened. Another realistic signing for Newcastle. Maybe a Max Aarons at right back. Norwich right back, English right back, good friends with Jamal Lewis as well. We need another right back because Kraft and Yedlin aren't good enough. Another potential signing. Just trying to think who could we potentially look at as another signing. Tammy Abrahams, he's just come up on the screen now if you're watching Sky. He's on the bench at Chelsea. If you look at Chelsea, they've got three strikers. They've got three strikers at the moment. Tammy Abrahams is probably third choice of those strikers. Now, for me, I think, if we're going to play two up top with the target man and the pacey striker in and behind, I think Tammy Abrahams and Callum Wilson could be a deadly partnership, particularly because we can't guarantee Carroll's going to play every game and stay fit. He'd be a great link up, and I think he'd score goals for us. So, I think we could get him on loan for a season and guaranteeing minutes and the chance to score goals to get into the England squad for the Euros. If we're looking at a takeover signing, there are a couple of good players out there. I'm just trying to think in terms of. If we're looking at players that are going to command a little bit of money, for me, I think we could probably with the money get someone like Coutinho. I know he's linked with us a lot. Philip Coutinho is that number 10. I think with a lot of money, I think we could attract him to the club with, like I say, a big takeover with very expensive owners. Another signing, maybe a Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey at Leverkusen. I don't know if you know too much about him. Jamaican international. Fantastic right winger. Only 22, 23 years old. Lightning quick. He's just got bags of talent.
I was looking at the one at the James Rodriguez at where is he? Everton.
Well, he's at Everton now, yeah.
Everton, 22 million. Would that have been a viable signing?
Oh, yeah. And I think with the takeover earlier on, I think we would have looked at that 100%.
Yeah.
We'd have looked at that as. I think we'd have been able to afford the wages. It would have been a standout signing, and he needed to play at a club that was regularly playing football. Let's face it, he's only gone to Everton because of his relationship with Ancelotti, not because he's going to Everton because he loves the club. Let's be honest about that. And we were also heavily linked with Van der Beek as well, providing the takeover went through. And I know he's gone to Man United. And Man United will benefit from him because he's a fantastic talent. but yeah, there's a few players out there I think we would have took advantage of and signed. There's a lad in Brazil called Everton. Funny enough,
Yes.
a left winger, tricky, full of skill and trickery. We were linked with him in the January transfer window, and it never came to fruition. But
Yeah.
he would be another player that would light up the Premier League, in my opinion. So there are players out there for sure that I think would sign, providing the takeover went through. And I think if it did happen, I think we would be pleasantly surprised at the type of players that we would attract.
Yeah. Question here from my wife again. We looked at Mason Mount maybe on loan. Did you know this?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'll be honest. I'd be surprised if Chelsea let him leave, because I know he's got a really good relationship with Frank Lampard, and obviously they worked together at Derby before he came and was manager at Chelsea. So I'd be surprised if he went on loan. I mean, I think he even started tonight for Chelsea, so that tells you a lot. But you know what?
He might get squeezed by certain signings. He is a top professional, a good player, but you keep signing these top players, you're going to get squeezed out at some point, aren't you?
That's true. That's true. And Chelsea went a season with going with the young English-based players at club, already at the club, and it worked. But now the transfer ban's gone, I can only see Chelsea reverting back to type. And I think the likes of Loftus-Cheek, the likes of Mason Mount, eventually will get fizzled out. I believe Tammy Abrahams as well. I think they'll go for bigger and better players to take them to the league title, because Chelsea are a team that don't like to wait around.
No.
If they have a dip in form and they lose some players, they might go a season where they're not at their best, but then they hit back and go and spend 250 million and sign the top best players in the world, and then they make that rise again. And I think that's what they're going to do this season with what they've signed, and I think they'll go again in January and next summer too.
Right. A message from Jacob Ford. Do you think Joelinton was a waste of money? Which is the biggest laugh. Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah, it is obvious.
That was a PR thing, wasn't it, Joelinton? We all know that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk that there was agreement with the company that Joelinton's linked to. And funny enough, I think there's a lot of talk as well that St. Maximum is from the same agency.
Yes.
And there was an agreement to sign them together, and that's why those two deals were done. And there's a lot of talk about that happening and the reason why it happened. There's also a lot of talk that we only actually paid 20 million for Joelinton, but Mike Ashley paid the money out of his own pocket, and it didn't come out of the transfer kitty, just to ensure the deal went through. So, there's a lot of grey areas there with this Joelinton signing, and it shows, because he's not a 40 million player, and he clearly isn't the required quality that we need to take the club forward. He's been linked with Turkish teams in recent weeks, and I think it would be best for all parties. I don't think he'll go, but I think it would be best for all parties if he went on loan there for a season, played regular football, tried to score some goals, and then maybe come back the season after and see how he is. If not, sell him on. Because I think even if he stays this season, I think it'll be a waste.
So there's many deadwood at the club at the minute. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you've got Savin there. It's been there since 2013, 14?
Yeah. There you go.
Just ridiculous. And you'd be paying out good wages to a player that's played, I think the last time I saw it was something like 12 games.
Yeah. And this is it. You got Ashraf Lazar that's on the best part of £50,000 a week. Henry Sarvi, the best part of £50,000 a week. You had Jack Colback, who before he left was on £50,000 a week. You got DeAndre Ledlin, the best part of £40,000 a week. You've got players there that are still at the club that are on big money. I just think we need to get rid of these players. Muto going out on loan is a positive. Florian Lejeune going out on loan is a positive. He needs games. The likes of, I think, Ashraf Lazar and Aarons. There was talk today that they're in talks to cancel their contracts, to terminate their contracts now, which I think is the best thing all round, because we're not going to find clubs for them. They need to just be let go. And we need to get players off the books.
You're on about Mutu there. I think he was the second highest earner in the club.
Yeah.
And that needs to change. I mean, he's hardly ever played. And he's hardly ever given, well, you can see it both ways. He's hardly ever been given a chance, really, has he?
No,
you're
right. You're right. Yeah. But this is the way. Sometimes signings go right, sometimes they go wrong. You can never really judge it until they're actually in the club. So,
question for you, Pete: who's your favourite player?
Current squad.
Current squad. Current squad and all time. So do both.
Okay, so in the current squad for me, it would be Saint-Maximin quite easily. Just because I've watched him for a season play, but quite easily, Callum Wilson will be for me a player that I really enjoy watching. He was just fantastic to watch on Saturday. But at the moment, Saint-Maximin is a joy to watch, and really a quality player. In terms of all time. Obviously, apart from the obvious, Alan Shearer, I would say I had a real sort of soft spot for Laurent Robert.
Oh, somehow I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I had a real soft spot for Laurent Robert.
That left foot.
Sorry?
That left foot.
It was an absolute. He was a genius. He's been an underrated player for us at the club. He had a wonderful left foot. Came for £10 million from PSG, which was peanuts at the time. And he really lit up the Premier League. Really lit up the Premier League when he came and played for us, and provided a shed load of assists for Alan Shearer. He turned games on its head at times. I never forget that the game at Highbury, where we won. Yes. I think we won 3-1 to go top of the league at Christmas. Under Sir Bobby, and I think it was 3-1 at Highbury. He scored.
Bellamy scored there.
I think he scored one of them. Scored one of them. Then Bellamy got sent off. I think they also had a player sent off, and then Bellamy got sent off, and then there was Laurent Robert at 1-1 won the penalty. Shearer scored, and then Robert scored himself to make it 3-1. And that night, he was just unplayable. He was fantastic to watch. He was just a talented player. I mean, I could go through so many. I enjoyed watching Andy Cole. He was the reason why I supported Newcastle in the first place. Les Ferdinand was a terrific striker for us. Ginola, Peter Beardsley, absolute genius. Yeah, exactly. There were so. Seriously, there were so many. There were so many players. But for me, Laurent Robert, I really enjoyed watching him play. He had an elegance and quality about him that, if he was here in the Premier League doing that now, he'd be absolutely loved. He'd be loved by everybody.
Another question by Josh King. Josh King would be a good signing.
It would. He would be a good signing, and he would be the perfect partner for Callum Wilson. They've done it before at Bournemouth, but I think his aspirations are a lot higher. I think the fact that he missed out on the transfer to Man United in January, I think he's struggled with that, and now he's looking at that caliber of team to go to next. So I think that's what he's holding out for. Do I think he'll get it? I'm not quite sure. But I think that's what he's holding out for. But he needs to be careful. There's only a few weeks left of the transfer window. And if those type of teams haven't got the money.
October 6th, isn't it? it
Uh,
closes
I think it's the fifth. I
fifth.
think I think it's the fifth.
No, I thought, okay.
So yeah, so I mean, look, it's finishing soon, and if those
Yeah,
teams that he's looking for, and those are teams interested in Italy, and some in the Premier League, but not of the caliber that he wanted. If he might have to settle playing Championship football at Bournemouth, which is not what he wants.
yeah,
So he needs to make a decision on his career soon because look, the season's already started and he's still at Bournemouth in the Championship. So,
yeah.
um, you know, he might have to go to another team and prove himself again, like Callum Wilson's doing.
Right. Well, we'll finish off for
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
To the both of you, who's your favourite number 9 player? And that's from Tom Meehan.
There's only one for me, and that's Alan Shearer. He's an absolute genius. Closely followed behind him by Andy Cole. Andy Cole was an absolute machine. And the fact that he went to Man United meant that he was slightly overlooked in terms of being one of the greatest for Newcastle to play in the modern era. Andy Cole was a fantastic striker. So yeah, I would say Alan Shearer followed by Andy Cole.
Yeah, I think I would pick between two. I would pick Alan Shearer every day of the week, but I would also throw in there Malcolm McDonald.
Definitely. Fantastic strikers. The only reason I've not gone for them is that they were sort of before
Before
my
your
time, really. That's the only reason why.
Before mine, but I like Malcolm. I've seen many highlight reels of him playing, and what a player! Anyway,
terrific.
Thanks for being on my show.
No problem.
I hope to get you on again.
Definitely. No, obviously, well done to you. First showdown. Surely many more to go. And thanks for allowing me to come on.
No problem. Thanks very much.
No worries. Take care.
Good night.
See ya.
Well, thank you for anyone who has been watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Good night. All right, you Rajis.